Welcome to Hope on Fire, relevant talk radio for young adults. Whether you're 25 or 45, there's bound to be a discussion that you care about. Our mission is to share practical ways to find God in your everyday life. And now today's host, Chris Lang.
I'm sure we'd all agree that the only constant in our world is Jesus Christ. Hebrews 13 verse 8 says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Everything else is changing at an increasingly faster pace, including the technology we use to spread the good news about Him. Recently, I was given a number of original posters from an evangelistic crusade held in the fall of 1942. The evangelist happened to be my grandfather, Roy Griffin. Each afternoon, he gave a live radio address to summarize the topic for the meeting that night. This was a way for him to reach out to prayerfully attract new visitors to the meetings. In 1942, his ministry made creative use of a cutting-edge technology called radio. Today, more than 65 years later, you could refer to radio as sort of the grandfather of media ministry options. The real challenge now is keeping up with all the quickly evolving technologies and how we can best apply them as channels for the gospel. Hello, I'm Chris Lang, and today's topic is podcast prophets and other media ministers. I want to introduce the folks in the studio with me today, Mario Pino, Casio Jones, and Jared Thurmon. I got that right, guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I want to start, give our listeners a brief background on where you're coming from and how God called you to get involved in media ministries. Let's start with Mario.
Thank you, Chris, for having us here. Well, a little bit of my background is as I was listening to you about the different, traditional media. My background is I started in cable in 1980s. I had an opportunity to go to the Middle East in the early 90s after the war. Was out there and helped roll out television over satellite in that area of town, that area of the world, and eventually got into the internet, and most recently have been involved with a company that's really taking the technology that all this internet and all the things that you can do with it, and enabling companies to get their media connected to an audience.
So basically using it for broadcasting and branding products and using it for businesses to kind of expand what they're doing and connect with new audiences?
Exactly. It's about anybody who has any kind of media, connecting it to a person, whether it's through a phone, and we'll talk about that later, and other devices.
Sure.
But it's just about connecting.
And for you, your calling, how did God impress you to get involved in media ministry?
It started back when I was in the Middle East, and I was I was looking for a church, and I was looking for media from our church, and it was very difficult to get, almost impossible. You couldn't bring it in, being in that part of the world. And when I came back to this country, and I had an opportunity to build this platform and these systems that we now use for many, many different purposes, I just said, we have to have a way that not only enable this media to get internationally and globally and available in different ways, but also as a member of a certain denomination, it's how do we connect all that media to people? How do we connect that media to the people in the church? And so one thing's led to another, and I just really felt compelled that I needed to use all this experience I had within cable, satellite, internet, and use it for the purpose of trying to bring media to Christian media to the world.
And Mario, you're doing a great job keeping it really simple for our listeners today.
Thank you.
You're one of the most technically gifted media ministers I've met.
Thank you.
Casio, what about you?
Well, Chris, for me, this whole ministry, the whole concept started just searching the net one day, and was really trying to find a safe platform for interaction and to find good content. And what I found online was a lot of negative attacks or just negative false information or the things out there that I didn't feel was really relevant to me. And so I said, Lord, it'd be great if we could create an environment where there could be that unity, the sharing information, sharing of content, and where we could continue to grow a close relationship with Christ over the internet.
And you grew up as a Christian.
Yes.
And you're really into health and wellness.
Yes.
Your background is?
My background is really, I'm an exercise physiologist, wellness leader.
Okay, so you're not a technical guy like Mario. You're actually an educator
Yes, I am a health educator.
and a bodybuilder.
Yeah, you could say
You're kind of covering up some of that.
we play a
massive-
little, we work a little.
You're just not flexing yet, but so you're taking care of yourself, and
Yes.
you're using that as a talent
Right.
to tell others about your faith, aren't
Right,
you?
exactly.
So media became kind of a passion that you started to see those two coming together as a calling?
A huge connection of using the media as a way of sharing with the world what God has blessed, and each one of us has that opportunity. And as we continue in this show, where people will learn how they have that ability, how simple it is for them.
That's great.
But one of the things to emphasize about the starting, Chris, was that the passion for youth. The youth are on the internet. And
Right.
these days,
Right.
we're in a generation where only 4% have a relationship with Christ, but they know the internet.
Right.
And so if we could create and be a platform where we could reach them where they are, I think it's a good thing. And so, long story short, through a mutual friend, I met Mario.
So you guys got connected in ministry, and we're going
Yes.
to talk more about that
Yes,
in a few minutes.
exactly. So-
Great. It's good to have you, Casio.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Chris.
Jared Thurmon, he's coming down from Atlanta, Georgia, and you just got married, didn't you?
I did.
That's pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah.
What about your calling? What about your background, Jared, and how God called you into media ministry?
Well, I don't have some of the necessary skills that these gentlemen have, and him being humble. I think all superheroes are humble. Some of his muscles are kind of pushing me aside back there.
You're getting nudged.
I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah. No, I just kind of have a passion to spread the gospel. And so I got to go to India for a month about 2 years
Amen.
ago. This last year I got to go for another month. And just to see.
And you're preaching.
Yeah, I was preaching over there.
Wow,
yeah.
your voice is strong. So
Yeah, and
speaking
we
for
went.
Christ.
We went with the method that Jesus does, which is basically health first and then spiritual healing second.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Teach people how hygiene and things like that. But it taught me that around the world, people are searching for something. Here in the United States, lots of people don't know what it is, but we have all this media in front of us. So if there's any way to get the gospel and truth in front of people, I'm a fan of that.
That's great. Well, it's great to have you all here, and I'm looking forward to hearing more as we get into this discussion together. You know, I want to give, for those listening who might not have any clue about how we got here,
Right.
you know, just by way of a quick flyby on history, I was, as I mentioned in the opening of the program, I was given some original posters that my grandfather used in his evangelistic crusades. These are originals, by the way. I don't know, guys, Jeff and Richard, if you can zoom in on these. Here you can see this one is dated November 1942. Just to give you a context, is Hitler the beast?
Wow.
Can you imagine being a pastor
Wow.
during the Second World
Wow.
War with Hitler running around, attacking every country he could find? Interesting. Another poster for another date. Here's one of his mug. Do you think we look similar, by the way?
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's in the family or not, but
Can't deny,
I
spit
guess
you
we're both
out.
wearing glasses.
Yeah.
But here, the reason I brought this one, I have tons of them at home actually, but this one actually has where my finger is. You can see WMBG, the radio broadcast right here where my finger is. If you can see it, he would talk on the radio every day before his program, and tell them a summary of what was coming that night on the program. To try to attract visitors, and he actually hand typed his whole radio address. And this is an example of one he read over the radio in September of that same year, that says, "Will Hitler rule the world?"
Right.
I mean, a lot of people were wondering, and today, with all of the things going on, we have a similar tension. Don't you sense a tension
Absolutely.
in the world?
Yes.
And
People know something's about to happen.
You know, the thing is that fear. There was a fear then, and it's a fear now of the unknown. And I commend those who take that stand and to spread the truth that say Hitler's not the one. Of his days, he was doing that. And today is people need to take more of that stand to realize that, to help share the message with others, that they don't have to be afraid.
Jared has a statement, probably a life creed, that you emailed to me. He said, everyone has a dream, but few have the courage to follow it.
Right.
Right.
That was really passionate,
Awesome.
you know? I'm proud to have been connected somehow to this man who I never met. He died in the 1940s, long before I was ever born. Long before I was ever born.
You're not that old, huh? Okay.
But let's just fly by now. We had radio being sort of the accepted technology in the 40s all the way up through the 60s, and of course when I came around in the 70s and 80s, radio was sort of evolving as a ministry media into the high-tech television and videotapes kind of coming out in the 80s to help disciple people. You'd bring a videotape into the home. And then in the 90s, you had television evolving into satellite broadcasting, and we had net evangelistic crusades covering full continents, which was, everybody thought Jesus had to come next year because, we're actually taking it to the whole world, which was kind of a fascinating technology. But there were some technical drawbacks there, and of course, Mario knows better than the rest of us. If you didn't have a satellite dish, you couldn't pick up the program to show it in your church. And of course, the satellite had to be on that side of the world to actually pick it up.
Some parts even, Chris, they didn't have power. So you have to have electricity. I've been to parts of Africa where they have to bring a generator in so they could even bring a TV and fire it all up. So
that's a good point. So you have then since the year 2000, it's the rise of the internet and digital video. And this whole transition of the dropping cost of storing, anyone who knows anything about technology knows that these digital files are huge. And it used to cost a lot to get storage, but now it's so cheap that last year alone, and I want to get your feedback here before the break, in 2007, 100 billion videos were viewed online in that 1 year alone. In the United States alone, 100 billion videos. What are some of the dynamics that played into that last year, that explosion of media utilization?
Oh, one of the things, of course, that had to happen, because I've been working on the convergence for almost 10 years now. I remember in '98 being at Microsoft when they had a player that we call today Windows Media Player that allows you to watch TV on your PC. And back then it wasn't even called Windows, and they ran it on $300,000 PCs, and they were dreaming about this day. So obviously one of the things that had to happen is broadband. High-speed internet needed to come to the home. The computer speeds needed to get faster. Storage needed to drop so people can store these files in their computer and save them and share them. So yeah, a lot of things had to happen for this vision of the quote-unquote conversions to happen on the internet, through the internet.
What else?
I think I'd throw in there YouTube. In the last few years, we're seeing where people were given the power to get their face in front of the whole world with YouTube. So this last year you saw just like the explosion of YouTube, and then the iPhone comes out, a new type cell phone, which basically they work a deal with YouTube where people can now watch videos on their phone around the world. So YouTube has just put the power in people's hands.
So it's an instantaneous connection with a cell phone.
And that's one of the things I was going to say was that desire for instant. We're a culture and of people that has to have it now. I don't want to wait.
The fast food culture?
Fast it now. I want it now. I want to have it at my disposal. I want to be able to do it. And with technology, they're able to have that.
Yeah,
What's happening with television? I understand a lot of the big networks now are putting their programs on the internet.
All of them.
Is that called video on demand?
Right.
Exactly. Video on demand, this whole area, think of time shifting. That's the thing about the video on demand. You watch what you want when you want to, and now you can watch it on different platforms.
Well, this is mind-boggling stuff. We hope listeners you'll stay with us. You're listening to Hope on Fire, relevant talk radio for young adults. Welcome back to Hope on Fire, relevant talk radio for young adults. I'm here in the studio with Jared Thurmon, Casio, and Mario. And I'm trying to keep your names. They kind of flow together. It's almost
Casio Mario show.
It's almost like a video game. You guys are creating this exciting new technology together, called One Hope for All. And I want to ask you guys to talk about your different media ministries here in a second. But one of the things before the break, we were talking about the explosion of video viewing, downloading, and streaming in 2007. And one of the big aspects that we've all agreed is social networking.
Right.
That interconnectivity, like MySpace and Facebook and other similar tools, have connected the world, literally. I mean, I think of the old song, "We Are the World." It was never more true than it is now, is it?
Connected people to people and people to the world.
Right.
Really was what social media really has done.
And really that viral, another term we use in this space, this conversation is viral. In this case, it's a good thing from a ministry perspective. So I want to use Hope on Fire as a brief kind of example of media ministry, and then I want to hear you guys describe the vision and what are the applications that you see available to anyone to use in this day and age that we're living. Hope on Fire, as you know, I mean, it's run by volunteers. It's sponsored by Forest Lake Church right in Orlando, Florida, and it's a worldwide ministry now. And people hear it on the radio. It's distributed with digital audio through 70 stations in the United States and over in Guam and now in the South Pacific, Singapore, Philippines, and other places. And also aired on satellite television. But one of the unique things that our volunteer technical gurus have done is made this available on the internet. So on our website, hopeonfire.org, so that if you miss the program or you don't have a satellite dish or you don't live in a place where it airs live on the radio, you can download it and even podcast it. And what is a podcast anyway exactly? Can someone give a simple definition to a lay person?
Well, podcasting is putting a file somewhere on a service on the internet that allows you to move it to another device. Really, is what it is. A device being a handheld,
like a portable player, that you
video
can listen
player,
to.
and obviously the iPod with the video capabilities, an iPod with the audio, which is the sort of the de facto standard in the world.
So it's basically a free subscription. Sometimes it's charged, depending on if people charge for it or not. In our case, it's free, but then it basically downloads automatically, so you don't have to remember when the next schedule.
You can subscribe to a podcast that automatically feeds your player that you own every time you connect to the internet.
That's awesome. Yeah. So basically that's what Hope on Fire has available to it, but it's just one ministry among thousands. You guys have ministries that you're working on right now. Jared, why don't you tell us about Present Truth?
Yeah, the idea of Present Truth is to kind of go after some of those hot topic, thought-provoking issues, whether it's with health, physical, spiritual, mental, or some religious issues people don't talk about as much. Maybe back in the 40s when people were talking about Hitler as the beast of Revelation. Some issues like that. People are starting to talk. These Revelation seminars, Bible prophecy. People want to know what's going on in the world. So Present Truth is trying to go after people interacting, getting their opinion in.
I understand you're even offering some creative incentives for young adults to think creatively and actually win something through Present Truth. What is it that
we basically had people the opportunity to upload videos, and if people vote on them, you would win a new iPhone.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
that's
something
that's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it's nice to get something for free while you're sharing what you believe to be the truth, right?
Exactly.
So that's pretty exciting.
The contest for that was, what is the greatest need in Christianity?
Do I still have a chance to enter that?
Couple of days, yeah. Couple of days, yeah.
All right.
But the problem is you have a personal relationship now.
Oh, so I'm excluded. from the competition.
Excluded.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. I didn't see that fine print.
Oh, it's way down there.
All right. Casio and Mario, you came together and you needed each other, didn't you, to create something new? It's an exciting new ministry.
Chris, I tell you what, it's amazing to see how God's hand is at work. And when you feel at times the Lord has called you to do something or drop something in your lap and you're passionate about something and you feel like, oh, Lord, okay, what do I do next? At times we feel discouraged because things are not happening. But I tell you that when you hold fast to God and hold fast to what He has and He has given you, He will reveal the other side that you did not know about or what was really out there that He has working in the back end.
So people don't have to worry about what they're supposed to speak about for God?
No, just stay on task, man. Stay on the path, and He will reveal everything in His time. And like we said earlier in the segment, the relationship me and Mario was connected through a mutual friend, and my passion to use the internet. And I said, hey Ron, we was in the car one day. I said, hey Ron, maybe this Mario guy could help me out with what I want to do, And he says, well, you know what? Mario's a Christian, and he goes to this church. And I said, no way, so do I. And so it was like, wow, it felt like that instant. I called him up immediately, right, that same.
We met within a day. We met.
It was like that connection of like, wow, this is what I've been waiting for.
So you started a couple years ago on a journey,
right?
And today, what is it that you're offering to believers?
Well, what One Hope for All really is enabling ministries that are using video to communicate, to put it in the central location.
Right.
Really, it's all about. So there are other platforms out there on the internet. You got YouTube, GodTube, and others. And those are users. They upload video and they put their personal messages there. But really, we felt that there was a need to aggregate media from all these ministries that have truth and that need to put it in a place.
So it's sort of like a media mall concept,
Exactly.
Right.
Where you have different stores or categories of content.
So to liken to that, obviously, when you go put a store in a mall, you don't have to build the mall. You don't have to build the store. You don't have to get all the infrastructure laid to have your store. You just rent the space
and bring your product in.
And that's really what we are all about. We give you the space so that you can come in and worry about the video that you're producing, the ministry, your outreach, not worry about the technology and all the hosting and the storage and all the bandwidth and all these things that you normally have to worry about or have been worrying about.
That's pretty exciting. So it's actually available to individuals and churches?
Yes, it is.
That part of the vision for it?
The aspect of the technology is available to all. The ability is such, we're talking about platforms like MySpace or a lot of social networks. It brings it down to the individual ability to go through and with one of our products to create their own customized player. They could go and pull content from various of ministries.
So if you're a health minister, as an example, you might find a multitude of different
health
ministries in that mall that you pick and choose from.
And I'll put it on my player, and now that player is sitting on my MySpace or my Facebook or either His Holy Space or Christian Social Network, sitting there. So people come interact with me, they're actually being witnessed to.
Right.
And they really get my view, but also a message right there.
So in the old days, someone would hand out these posters.
Right.
But now in the new digital age,
you hand out your player, your personal player.
You're connecting with your friends in your
page.
social network.
Right.
And you're actually handing out a digital
message.
Digital version of this. Absolutely.
That's
and that's great about it is that you can not only share the media, but you can invite people very easily to get the player and put it on their site or that media on their site because they believe like you believe. And it just really, you talk about the viral aspect. That's where the viral comes in, is that you have the ability to share that media and get it out in multiple places.
All right. So these are sort of the visions. Let's talk now about the promise of this technology. What are some of the things that you see coming for the promise of media ministry and podcasting and all the other profits and ministry potential that's out there?
Well, go ahead.
I think you're going to start to see educated men in Europe riding home on the train, and they don't want anybody to know that they maybe have a small interest in God's calling them.
Right.
On their phone, they're going to whip it out and they're going to watch a sermon. Whether it's Billy Graham, whether it's Doug Batchelor, some of these great evangelists around the world, they're going to watch it and not be afraid, just like this, on a device like that. We'll watch the video. Nobody has to know. They close it up, put it in their pocket, and the Lord's working with them.
And that media then, that format would allow interactive prayer requests probably?
Actually, yes.
During the broadcast.
Exactly. Imagine that.
Not only that, going on what Jared said, is they can be actually part of a seminar or some kind of, not just watching something, but they can be interacting. They can be texting on their phone through an instant messaging like Microsoft Messenger or AOL, and they're actually interacting live on their phone while they're on that train.
While they're watching the live video feed.
So they can ask for a prayer. They can chat with the person that's giving that event, even though they're on a cell phone somewhere in the world, if there's an interactive chat happening.
So essentially your audience is no longer in a physical place, is it?
Absolutely.
None.
Absolutely.
None.
And as more and more mobile, these phones that are smartphones, they call them, that you can add the internet to them. As more of those phones become prevalent, exactly what Jared said will become reality and everyday use.
Mario, you shared a vision about instead of renting a large stadium, like a lot of evangelistic crusades have done throughout time,
Right.
What is your vision for using technology?
Well, one of the things that we do different is also whenever you put your media file on our system, that file gets converted in different formats so it can support the phone and other things. But one of the things that I really see is something that I think that I would like to actually start working on this year, sort of third quarter, is the whole concept. Instead of spending $1 million in the stadium and you only have a 7-day event for evangelism or 2 weeks for an evangelistic crusade, because the files that you stored originally are now in a format that can go on what's called an IP set-top box. It's like the cable box. Then instead of connecting to the cable company system, you're connecting it to the internet. You put this cable box onto the internet and onto your TV, and now let's say there's an evangelistic crusade going on. Well, that crusade, a member of the church can take that box, take it home, put it on their TV, invite their friends and family that they want to invite to this crusade in their home, see the event live externally. So you have an external audience and an internal audience of the church. But not only that, you have the local, really tight-knit follow-up. Then after the event, if that person wants to learn more, they can get a box, put it on their home. Now we have ongoing follow-up after the crusade.
Sounds like basically using the lower cost technology to do more and reach more personal people in cities.
I mean,
we only have about a minute left. Time flies when you're having fun. For our listeners, come to our website, hopeonfire.org, and you'll see some other resources for ideas about how you can plug into this new high-tech media age that we're living in. Amazing, exciting times. Really quickly, somebody's listening today and they're wondering how they can share their faith, and they're saying, well, Chris, that's easy for you to say. You've got an army of people in the studio. You've got Richard and Delwyn behind the cameras, and Jeff and Lee running and directing, and Rob running the board, and Sharon running the teleprompter. And I mean, you've got an army. You know, I'm an army of one. How do I get started? What would you say to them in a couple sentences? What can they do?
Text message encouragement to your friends, filming yourself with your camera phone, and it can get on the internet now. I mean, the gospel is in your hands. Spread it.
Exactly.
Get engaged, get involved.
Right.
You know, it's a simple. Take a camera to every event you have at your church. Start recording it. Start capturing all that good content that's out there, and then plugging it in.
That's exciting.
What YouTube proved was it doesn't have to be a great production like you have here.
That's exactly right.
Okay, everybody here and that's supporting this actually has a talent, right? But it doesn't matter. If you run a camera, if you can just point it and shoot it and upload it, you can start with that.
Friend, the world is waiting for your testimony. In fact, it's dying to hear it. God needs podcast prophets today. I hope one of those messengers is you. God bless you.
Amen.
Hope on Fire is produced by Livestreams Media, a listener-supported ministry. To download a free copy of today's program or be a part of our social network, please visit our website at hopeonfire.org. You may also contact us by writing to Livestreams Media, P.O. Box 608513, Orlando, Florida 32860. Once again, that's Livestreams Media, P.O. Box 608513, Orlando, Florida 32860, or online at hopeonfire.org. Thank you so much for your letters and continued support. Until next time, may God set your hope on fire.